Greetings, programs. This is Wretch, and welcome back to Vampire the Masquerade Sins of the Sires. We went through Chapter 2 in the last stream, where we basically got asked to do a body disposal, and Dorian made some interesting choices, which I think we're going to see definite ripples over the course of the rest of the game, specifically where we rescued our priest friend from the building after it was getting attacked by police. So we'll probably run into him again, but in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and start Chapter 3, The Lies We Tell. You can barely keep up with Persa. She moves through the night like it belongs to her, and she to it. Few people register your passage across the city. Those who do write you off as a blur in the corners of their eyes, a lapse of the mind, a glitch in the software of reality. Except you know better. They're not of the soft bits that make this world work. You're the hardware, the bloody, violent wiring that holds it all up. When you get there, you can already feel the coming daylight, a distant but inescapable burning in the back of your head. The People's General Hospital is a large square structure with small windows and paint peeling off the facade. It was built in the 1930s, and it shows. A tattered banner with red and black lettering hangs over the entrance sign, calling for more staff, decrying the government's policy of slowly but surely dismantling and privatizing the National Health Service. The yellow ambulance is parked out front, but most people arrive on foot or in taxis. Persa nods at you and you both slip inside, nobody paying you any mind. Inside, it's chaos. Someone yells at you to take a number from the ticket machine and wait your turn. For appearance's sake, you do make your way to the ticket machine, only to discover that it's out of order. At least 100 people crowd the entrance area. Many look seriously ill, holding their faces in their palms, cradling crying babies, or bleeding slowly from probably non-fatal wounds. You recognize some of the kids from the squat, coughing, their eyes red from whatever shit the cops threw at you while you were in there. But no cops. Come on, Persa says, leaving the entrance area and heading further in. The long corridor behind the reception is lined with cots. It's not so different from that thin blood warehouse you visited the night before. Same misery, same stench of barely alive flesh. Most of the people on the cots seem out of it, unaware of everything that's going on around them, maybe even of their own dying. To be oblivious like that, how blissful it sounds. Sometimes you long for that lack of awareness, that perfect absence to fill your senses, to dull the knife that you are until it neither cuts nor shines. Okay, we don't have much time until dawn. Better split up, Persa says. We need to find anyone who may be a liability. Find them. And then what? I ask. Persa stares at you like you're daft. What do you think? She continues down the corridor, checking the many small rooms along the way. You walk in the other direction and take the first large corridor to the right. A commotion at the end of it catches your attention. Someone screaming, nurses and orderlies rushing in and out of a brightly lit room. You make your way closer and peek inside. It's a terrified kid, maybe a teenager, if you still remember how to judge mortal ages, speaking incoherently about the monster that came into the squad and bit his friend until he was dead, and the monsters who made him disappear. An orderly is holding the boy's arms by his side, trying to keep him from hurting himself. The nurse is called away. A boy freaking out is low priority. She shoots you a desperate glance on the way out. But then the boy sees you. He stops screaming, stops fighting, and the blood drains from his face. You know him? The orderly asks. Yes, I'm a friend of his family. The boy doesn't contradict you. The orderly speaks to the boy as if he were a feral animal. I'm going to let you go now, okay? Be good. The boy doesn't nod. The boy doesn't say anything. But the orderly lets him go anyway, eager to attend to his many, many other tasks. He smiles awkwardly at you as he leaves the room. The boy doesn't let you out of his sight, as if holding you in his gaze gives him power over you, keeps you from hurting him. Look at the terror in his eye, or look at the terror in the eye, and it can't harm you. Keep your hands and feet covered by the blanket, and the monster under the bed can't get you. What lies we tell our children. Are you scared? You ask him. He tilts his chin slowly, his lips quivering slightly. Don't be. Try to calm the kid down and convince him what he's describing is impossible. We're going to give that a shot. We've got enough persuasion. We got persuasion for days. With slow, calm movements, you make your way over to the boy and sit next to him on the examination bed. You show him your hands as if to prove that you're not going to hurt him. If your hands are the only way to hurt him. How old are you? You ask him. He stares at you for a moment, as if unable to believe you can speak, or that you expect him to. And yet, he does. 12, he whispers. 12, you repeat, impressed. Almost a man. Which is a lie, and you both know it, but he breathes in regardless, his shoulders a little less hunched than before. So you can't truly believe in monsters still, can you? You continue. Ooh, monsters exist in fairy tales, nightmares, lies adult. A Malkavian would say nightmares. Monsters only exist in nightmares, I add. The boy blinks, then asks, Am I having a nightmare? And you almost say, Yeah, kid, yeah. Aren't we all? But instead, you shake your head. No, you're safe. No one's going to hurt you. The boy seems calm now. He even puts on a brave face for you, his mouth set in a thin little line, his forehead wrinkled as he pushes his eyebrows together grimly. Gore's face invades your thoughts. What would he say if he saw you now? I really don't care. Sure, you may have made a connection or whatever, but it's not like that gives him any right to judge you for lying to a kid for his own good. Then, the boy's eyes flicker to something behind you. A woman in a suit just walked in. She takes in the scene in that professional, calculating way that cops so often have. Nico, she said to the boy, you wanted to talk to me about your friend Selim? The boy slowly shakes his head, but he doesn't speak. The woman turns to you. Who are you? I could ask you the same thing. She shows you her badge. Briefly, but you still catch the name. Fotine Gorgio. Like I said, apologies to anyone who speaks Greek or has a Greek name, which is one of those things. Happy? She asks. Now tell me what you're doing. Just visiting a friend, you say. She looks at the young man. Boy, whatever he is. This is your friend? She asks him. He nods slowly. I saw you at the squat, Giorgio says to you. Why were you there? Well, if you were at the squat, you know what happened, you reply. I was helping my friends. It's not even a lie. You pat the kid's knee. Good boy, your pat says. He's terrified enough he wouldn't talk even if you urged him to. You stand up. And if you don't need me for anything else, officer, I should be on my way now. The woman follows you with her eyes. She takes a moment too long, but in the end she steps aside and lets you pass. You leave the room. Breathing people would find this a good time to let out a breath they've been holding for too long. Now, to find Persa. You wander around the hospital for a while until you see Persa peeking into a patient's darkened room. Hey, you say, I've been looking everywhere for you. She grabs your arm and points at the door. Shh, she says. Watch. It takes a moment for your eyes to adjust, but then you see it. The dark, unmistakable shape, a body huddled over another body. A pale neck flashing faintly in the light of the monitors, the sound of blood leaving a body and entering another. What a fucking world. What a fucking unlife. You think of Marcos, the things he makes you do. Is this all there is? The next moment, Persa is pushing the door open and pulling you in behind her. The vampire feeding on the patient turns your way. She stands upright and wipes her mouth clean. Persa, she says, and to you, you must be Dorian. Oh, you know each other, you ask. Persa crosses her arms over her chest. Sure. Hi, Dinah. Dinah points at the patient, who is oblivious to everything happening around them. Care to partake? She asks. She's clean, just a lot of broken bones and in a coma. We need blood very badly. I need to feed again. Okay. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and do that. We're not harming, technically. Both you and Persa walk in and close the door behind you. You take a seat on the other side of the bed and sink your fangs into the patient's wrists. The blood tastes alive, strong. When you're done, the wound gapes like a mouth, open and hurting. You kiss it better. So what are you doing here? Persa asks when she's done. Same thing as you, I imagine, Dinah replies, cleaning up this mess at the squat. Dinah laughs at the look on your face. What? Did you think you were the only ones? And why not? Persa asks, ready to take offense. Because, how do I put this without sounding indelicate? Dinah says, allowing her phrase to trail off for dramatic effect. Because Pesistratos doesn't trust Marcos. At least, not as much as Marcos thinks he does. This is obviously news to Persa, just as it is to you, but she holds her tongue, afraid of giving Dinah anything that might be used against your little family at a later date. Are we done here? You ask. It's almost dawn. You have to find a place to spend the day. Oh, there's a church next to the hospital? No, that's probably not the smartest option for us. Cemetery or the hospital basement? What do you guys think? What would be the best place for us to hunker down for the day? We're not going to do the church. We're saying no to the church. But what about the other two? Because this definitely has potential, one way or the other. May have to roll for it. Cemetery feels safer. Yeah. It does. We're old school. We did see a cemetery nearby. Seems fitting. Are you coming with me? You ask Persa. Nah, she says. I'll find a utility closet or something. Let's meet back home. You leave Dinah behind and make your way out of the hospital before day breaks. The cemetery borders the hospital's land almost seamlessly, as if to drive home a point. Just by looking at it, you wouldn't know where one ended and the other began. One an edifice that preserves life, and the other a monument to death. Both, in the end, a desperate clinging, and nothing more. You make quick way among the tombs in search of one of the older mausolea, the ones least likely to draw attention if they show signs of having been broken into. A number of them, you find, have windows. Why on earth would someone put windows in a tomb? Until finally, you spot a suitable one. A heavy stone door stands between you and a safe place to spend the day. There's no way to gain entrance except brute force, so that's what you have to do. Your normal strength is not enough to make the door budge, so you resort to using your supernatural abilities, which in turn makes you hungry. The space is dusty and spiderwebbed. The air old and stale, but it'll have to do. So are we right back to where we were? Yep, that we were. Okay. You walk to the back of the mausoleum, to the stone sarcophagus with its marble lid. At the top, there's this likeness of a face, a delicate face, its features thin. Something about them that you would call monastic. It's rendered in bronze, once brilliant, you imagine, but now tarnished to a mute green. You run your palm over its surface, and you can't shake the idea that you're touching time. It leaves a rusty, sickly residue on your fingers. You climb onto the grave and lie on your back. You hear scratching from the outside, followed by cawing. A crow. Fitting. Everything is quiet now in here. You can feel the city waking up outside, but you ignore it. As you slowly slip into slumber, you remember Marcos talking to you about his biblical ideas, his notions of sleep as punishment, a quasi-death to remind men of their mortality, their unbridgeable distance from the hand and mouth of God. The only time when your body truly becomes a grave. And then, as if not a moment has passed, you rise. But your hunger rises with you, nagging, clawing. You find your way out of the tomb and head back to the hospital to make sure nothing disastrous has happened while you were slumbering. Oh, we're ravenous. The hospital is busy as ever, though there's no police presence, which can only be a good thing. Surveying the lobby, you do not spot a particular familiar face you do spot a particular familiar face in the crowd. Martha! From the Thin Blood warehouse. She's not dressed as a nurse this time. Too risky, probably. She spots you, too, and walks up to you. Hey, she says with an upward lip tilt of the chin. And what are you doing here? You ask her. They didn't hire you, did they? The new resident phlebotomist? No, she says, laughing, but close. Business, in any case. She pauses, as if thinking about something for a moment, and then says, Actually, there's someone I'd like to introduce you to. A friend. And why would you introduce me to your friend? You ask. She smiles, which only makes her face look paler and more like she needs medical attention. Because maybe one day he'll do something for you and then you'll owe me a favor. Isn't that how it works? I don't know. Is it? I ask back. The truth is, that's usually not how it works. Services can be rendered, sacrifices made, but favors are only owed if the person with the most power feels inclined to repay them. Thinking or hoping things work in any other way is just naivety and self-deceptive foolishness. Martha shrugs off your response. Come on, she says. Follow me. Martha leads you to the phlebotomy department of the second floor. She seems to know her way around as she navigates the maze of corridors and finally knocks on a door with a microscope sign on it. Come in. A thin, slightly nasal voice responds from outside. Martha pushes the door open. A young man in a slightly nasal. A young man in a lab coat over a brown shirt is sitting at a desk behind it, inputting data from sample labels into a computer. He turns and, when he sees Martha, stands up and throws his arms wide open. They hug, and you linger by the door. He turns to you. Who's this? He asks. Martha motions you in. This is Dorian, a friend. A stumble of hesitation before the word friend is almost imperceptible. Dorian, this is Elias. There you go. Elias gives you his hand. He's small-framed, and his sparse beard and asymmetrical undercut make him look even younger than he must be. His eyes are hazel, rimmed by thick, long eyelashes. You squeeze his hand. Martha turns to him again. You have something for me? She asks. Sure, Elias says and excuses himself for a minute, fetching something from his bag. A metal container of some kind, containing who knows what. Thank you, Martha says. She kisses him on the cheek. You're the best, she says, and Elias pats her upper arm. It's no problem, he says. He glances at you with a glint of mischief in his eye. Whatever I can do. He clearly thinks you're cute. I'll have to run now, but I'll... Oh, wait. I have to run now, but I'll let you two talk. I've done my duty. She laughs and then backs out before you can say anything. Elias closes the door behind her and offers you a seat next to a desk covered in crates of blood samples and perfect little vials. So, he says, are you like Martha? Your head snaps toward him. Excuse me? I mean, do you have the same, disease? He asks. Is this how you know each other? How much does he actually know? Is this a masquerade breach? Find out without scaring him off. So how long have you known Martha? You ask. Oh, a long time, Elias says. We went to school together. We were besties. Bullied girls unite. He raises a tiny fist and shakes it feebly, then laughs. Then he looks at you to make sure you understand. It was before my transition, he explains. He looks down his chest. I'm kind of new to this body, so helping Martha get used to hers has been a huge help to me too, in a way. You know a thing or two about adapting to a new, amazing, terrifying body, don't you? So, how much do you know about this disease? You ask. He sits back, the tension draining out of his shoulders. Not nearly enough, he says. He sounds almost excited now. It's just so unpredictable. I've met a number of Martha's friends who suffer from the same condition, but there's very little consistency in their symptoms. Some exhibit photophobia, others gangrenous flesh or anemia. He pauses and rubs his eyes. Some don't have a heartbeat. Really, I understand very little of it, but I try to help Martha and others like her as much as I can. They don't trust most medical professionals, and I don't blame them. He absently traces the sparse hair on his face. It's so hard to be taken seriously sometimes. Not quite a breach, then. Not yet. But how long before he witnesses a feeding or some blood alchemy shit and something clicks in his head? He means well, and that makes him vulnerable. Protect the damn mortal. This is Martha's fault, or stay out of it. Suzanne, I figured that your vote would be protect the damn mortal. Well, let's see. Amaran, thank you so much. I appreciate that sub with Prime. That is 23 months, my friend. Waited for a quiet moment like this. Remember, guys, all bit subs and ad revenue here on the channel go to help out kids at my local children's hospital via Extra Life. So thank you for supporting the channel and supporting the kids. You're true to form. Very true, Suzanne. Only harm those who deserve it. Always protect children. I don't think it's necessarily Martha's fault. I don't necessarily want to protect the damn mortal. So I'll stay out of this. It's not my concern. Not right now, anyway. One thing you've learned is that if something is not posing an immediate threat, you should let it be. Don't go poking the dragon, and you might, just might, not end up in its jaws. You're quiet, Elias remarks. What is it? You avoid answering the question. It was nice meeting you, you say instead. I'm sure we'll meet again. You have a few more hours until dawn. I need to feed! The good thing about haunting a hospital and hanging out with a phlebotomist is the access to fresh as can be easily available whole blood. You made sure to snatch a couple of unfractionated blood bags on your way out of the hospital earlier, so now you're free to find a quiet corner and quench your hunger. As much as your subpar meal allows, anyway. Okay, that's one. The way home is unnaturally quiet. If you listen carefully, it feels like you can hear the city breathing. The moon is blank, the faint outline of a hole in the world, an afterthought of the absent-minded sky. You let yourself into the house, and Marcos is already there. He doesn't acknowledge you when you walk in, even though you're not trying to be discreet. Is it you, or does he look even paler than normal tonight? Then you notice it. Marco's shirt is torn from a stab wound in his gut, just below the ribs. He holds his hand against it sometimes as if in pain. Near the wound, a single drop of blood. Do you need help with that? I ask, nodding to his wound. He shakes his head. He says he's out hunting, but you know he's lying. You've seen him hunt, and even though he doesn't like it, he's good at it. No mortal would stand a chance against him, let alone get close enough with their wits intact enough to stab him. Is he in trouble? Does he have enemies you don't know about and should? He sits on the couch and motions you to join him. You do. Tell me how it went, he orders. You tell him everything you learned at the squad. The rumors against Aristovaros, Amphitrion's role in the whole debacle, and how you dealt with the cleanup there and at the hospital. Marco stands up. Now rest, he says. Tomorrow is a big night. You bolt upright at that. What's tomorrow? You ask to no answer. What's tomorrow? You ask again, louder this time. But Marcos is already heading downstairs, his gaze absent, his mind on something other than you. Oh wow, that is the end of the chapter already. What? Okay. I didn't, well, I mean, to be fair, I did just try and maneuver my way out of certain situations without having to deal with them. But man, that was a really fast chapter. I did hear that though, that this game does tend to fly after the game does tend to fly after the first chapter. So I'm really glad I'm doing these like 2 or 3 episodes a week. So at least we're going to get through it fast, potentially. But yeah, the writing style is interesting now that I've gotten a chance to kind of process it. I feel that there needs to be a little bit kind of more dialogue, a little bit more kind of detail given to certain situations instead of he does this or he does this. Like, how does that character react to it, you know? But it is what it is. We'll see how the story continues in chapter 4. So we'll go ahead and end it here, guys. Now, if you haven't followed the Twitch channel, please do so. I try and stream on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays with random times in between, depending on how my internet's working. And if you're watching the replay of this on YouTube, I have a link to the Twitch channel in the description below. I've got a link to Vampire the Masquerade Sins of the Sires on Steam if you want to try the game out yourself and kind of go on your own adventure through the world of darkness. And I also have a link to my Extra Life page where I'm raising money for my local children's hospital via the Extra Life charity. So check out all those links if you feel so inclined. Like, share, subscribe. You guys know the drill there. And we will see you next time. Later days, everyone.